Joining us on Newsweek, where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. I am Mark Kotabo. Former President Buhari dies in London as President Tinubu condoles family, orders flag fly at half-mast. Supreme Court upholds Governor Polo's election, dismisses Ighodalo's appeal for want of merit. And later on the show, Dangote drops ex-depot petrol price to 820 naira per litre. All the details in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Nigeria's immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari, has died in London. A statement released by his former spokesperson, Garba confirmed that the 81-year-old former president passed away this afternoon at a private clinic in the United Kingdom. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also confirmed the news, stating that Buhari died at about 4:30 p.m. In a swift response, Tinubu's special advisor on media and information, Bayo Ononuga, disclosed that the president has spoken with Buhari's widow, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, to extend his condolences. He also directed Vice President Kashim Shettima to travel to the UK to accompany the former president's remains back to Nigeria. As a mark of respect, President Tinubu has ordered that national flags fly at half-mast across the country. Muhammadu Buhari was twice elected Nigeria's president, serving from 2015 to 2023. Before that, he ruled as military head of state from January 1984 to August 1985. Now, my guest tonight are former Secretary, NBA Human Rights Committee, Bernard Oniga, right here in the studio with me. Bernard, good to have you on the show this evening.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. And also have a communications consultant, Ibrahim Garba, joining us from our Abuja studio. Ibrahim Garba, do we have your attention at this time?
Thank you very much for having me, Mark.
Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, we have a policy analyst, Yusuf Haron, joining us via Zoom. Yusuf, it is indeed a pleasure to have you come on the show this evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right, Yusuf, I have to take you on first quickly. Now, the news is quite very sad, as a matter of fact. How did you receive the news when you first heard it? What was your, general overview of the current situation right now with what we are already faced with?
So this news was shocking, and it was my wife that just brought the phone to me and said, "Have you heard the latest news?" And I said, "What is it?" And she opened her phone and I read former President Muhammadu Buhari is dead. Then I went on social media on X and I saw viral comments and posts on this man, to the extent that even those who were opposing him had to start commending him and saying good things. It is actually shocking. And there are about 10 facts I will say about him as we continue to discuss. But it's a shocking story. And I believe everybody is really, really mourning this great leader, because we've not had any leader like him in the North who commands this cult-like followership. Maybe we had in the time of Saudana, of Tafa Balewa, Saudana of Sokoto, Ahmadu Bello. But in our present time, there is no Northerner who is as influential as the former President Muhammadu Buhari. And his death is a shockwave to the whole country.
Right.
We can't remove Nigeria's history without mentioning former President Muhammadu Buhari, who has ruled Nigeria for a total of 10 years. 2 years in the military general between 1983 to 1985, and also 8 years between 2015 to 2023. This is an icon, he's a legend in Nigeria's history. And one of the things everybody admits, even his opponents or his opposition, is that this man has an integrity. He stood for anti-corruption. He himself is not corrupt, and he is very principled. So these are qualities in which we see in a leader, which we don't find in many politicians of today. This is a man who is outstanding. I don't know if we're going to have another leader like that, especially from the North in our recent time,
All right,
who we can say is very influential and is able to change the tide, both in politics and also in the general situations of life.
All right, Ibrahim Garba, quickly, I could imagine how you feel at the moment. Of course, when the news was broken, it was quite a sad one, because we expected that the health situation was going to, take some level of flight and he would come back to his normal self. But we never knew that this was going to be it. Now, how would you summarize Muhammadu Buhari's legacy as both a military ruler and a civilian president, because I know you've been quite on top of that story for a long time, and you have you know, you have your takes concerning his personality. So we might want to hear it right now.
Well, you know very well, Mark, that in this country today, just like my colleague there has spoken, there is nobody in this present age that commands that kind of organic followership in the entire country. The secret being that, you know, in this country today, you have to identify with those at the lower spectrum of the society. You have to tell them their needs. You have to tell them you are fighting for their rights. You have to keep showing them you are with them. You have to show empathy. Muhammadu Buhari is so many things to so many people. And even in his foreign politics, you need to form coalition and coalition and coalition to be able to defeat this man. We know how the opposition parties struggle to defeat him at the polls, you know. And that is why even when Yar'Adua came into office, he said, look, there's a need for us to embark on electoral reforms because we see somebody with, you know, organic followership, and at the same time, you see him losing at the polls. But thank God, in 2015, he made it. Not that he's giving people money to vote for him. Buhari doesn't bribe anybody to vote for him. It's just that attitude, that mindset that, look, together we can make this country a better place for all of us. And he did it. He succeeded by mobilizing people for government, mobilizing people. At the same time, you know what he did, Mark? He never owed any governor all through the 8 years in his office. And it's okay, I leave it to your conscience. Govern with your conscience. But in the end, he concluded, he left office, and today is no more. Mark, it took me time to summon courage to come into the studio today, but I'll tell you it's not easy for me because I'm so passionate about this man. This is the last man standing for us in the North, Mark.
Wow. Now, Bennett, you could listen to Garba over and over again and how he's been quite, you know, on the downside with what's happening at the moment. Now, from your perspective, you're a legal luminary. Now, how would you also describe Buhari's presence in the country? And of course, now that he's gone, what would you say is the argument out there, you know, across the North? What is it going to be like from your perspective? How do you think this news would be received?
Thank you very much, Mark. Death is indeed the final destination of all mankind.
Absolutely,
and we all are going to get there someday, whether at 20 or at 80 or at 83, that our former dear president is now gone. However, it is important that I extend my condolences to his family. He has a lovely family, and I admire his family a whole lot. It is my prayer that the family would take consolation in the fact that he was a great leader. And I say this because the fact that we have a nation today and the fact that we have a nation to be hopeful for in terms of having better governance and better leadership is something we should be grateful for. Right? President Muhammadu Buhari was not a perfect leader. He made his mistakes and he had his high moments, he had his low moments.
Absolutely.
You know, and of course, as a military head of state and as a public policy experts will never forget decree number 20. Those were low moments. But at the same time, you can never take it away from him. He was a man of high principle and values. Those are the things you cannot divorce from his personality. People said there was a cabal during his administration, which I doubt and doubted a lot, because he was in full control of his government. That is exactly what I would say about him, you know. And then Buhari had this, he trusted people around him a whole lot, you know. I don't know if it was a weakness or if it was in the positive or in the negative, you know, but, you know, when Tunde Ndiagbon was his right-hand man, then, you know, Tunde, you know, more or less ran the country and Buhari gave him all the support. So he was a leader that was never afraid to delegate. You know, it's barely less than, I got to aware of this news about an hour ago. Of course, there are mixed reactions on social media. I was reading some comments, you know, but on the whole, it tells us one thing, that it is a legacy that we leave behind that counts. Right. A lot of Nigerians are out there saying positive and saying negative things, but what matters is that, you know, we all will leave a legacy. And for me, it is a big lesson to our leaders, our current leaders, that someday they will go, and we will also need to make public comments about them. just as you have me here today making comments about Muhammadu Buhari. Like I said, he had his low moments. Personally, I was not his fan. I did not admire his style of leadership. But of course, as a leader, you know, not everyone would support you. I didn't support him. But I mean, it's too early in the day to begin to look at his failures. It will be important that no matter how little it is, that the positives are, that we focus on them at this point in time. You know, it's absolutely important. So for me, he loved Nigeria. You know, he loved Nigeria. He had a lot of passion. He wanted to see the economy grow, even though, and although I do not think that we fared very well during his tenure in terms of the economy and security, but he had a lot of passion. Unfortunately, those passion could not be translated into realistic goals and objectives. You know, but he was a man, and he had his flaws. And we would ask that, like my Muslim brothers will say, that Allah will forgive his shortcomings and accept his soul in paradise.
Well, Muhammadu, Ibrahim Garba, very quickly, I understand the feeling that comes with the situation right now. Now, how would you describe the moment in history where the late general commanding the 3rd Armored Division disobeyed orders from President Shehu Shagari at the time by pursuing the Chadian troops deep into Chad, reclaiming lost Nigerian territory and pushing beyond the border? You know, not many people understand the significance of that moment in history at the time compared to what some of our young people, you know, have of him as a view. But from your perspective, talking about his legacy, how do you think this legacy of his would transcend with time now that he's gone?
I think the most important thing in our life is to lead from the front. Muhammadu Buhari, we all know, is a soldier's soldier. He never waits for somebody to lead for him. He never waits for somebody to take the bullet for him. Even before this time, if you go back to the Civil War years, nobody knew Buhari went through the forest land from Kaduna as far away as the southeast by roads, through the forest. He has done so much for the Nigerian army, and that is why even those within the military circle continue to see him as a leader, and a leader. Why do you say as a leader? Because Buhari always set example for others to follow. And that is why even during the coup in 1985, you know, 1983, sorry, they were quick to appoint him and nominate him as their head of state, not as if he led the coup. So if somebody who have this antecedent, somebody who have these leadership qualities in him, inborn, that kind of person is somebody that everybody want to associate with. And that is why it was easy for Buhari to pass this message to the younger generation. The soldiers coming through the ranks say, look, it is time for us to lead. It is time for us to take back our country. And as long as we are alive, Nigeria must remain one and indivisible, and no foreign nation should invade our territory. So these are some of the messages he keep passing across, apart from the military, civilians, even those that work with me, his friends, his family members, all benefited from his, you know, legacies. And I really pity, I know the mood of Mr. President right now, because whatever he turns, President Buhari and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they are the best of friends, always thinking about this nation. And that is why even when he took over from President Buhari, I see something. Nigeria should be patient, because these two people are the people living now that we know are legends that are passionate about this country today. So we'll continue to support Mr. President in these very difficult times for him, because I know President Tinubu has lost a very, very good friend and brother.
Absolutely. Now, Yusuf, very quickly, now, his legacy in the North stands out. But some would argue, was his anti-corruption campaign effective, or was it symbolic? So from your perspective, how would you rate that? How would you score his rate card concerning that?
Now, if we are to look at his anti-corruption campaign, we are going to look at it in two aspects. Firstly, when he was the military head of state, yes, between 1983 to 1985, together with Idi Agbo, they started this war against indiscipline. And then they clamped down. In that process, people said he was too strict and he was not using the court. They were just arresting people, taking them to prison, find anybody who is corrupt. They are disciplined. They have this court martial and things like that in the military. Now, When he became the president, we know that in democracy, it's a gradual process. That is why even current President Bola Tinubu can't just arrest anyone on allegations of corruption. You see, democracy is systematic.
Yeah.
Even somebody who is alleged to be corrupt, you can't just arrest the person and take the person to prison. And that is one thing many Nigerians don't understand. And it's not only in Nigeria, even in the United States, even in Europe. If people are alleged to be corrupt, or if there is allegation of corruption, there has to be a due process. You have to investigate, you have to bring out evidence, you have to sue the person to court. The judge has to confirm. And you know, the court process again is a different jurisdiction. That is not the federal government. The court is separate. We have three arms of government: the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. So President Buhari, as I remember what President Bola Tinubu said in one of their convention when Buhari was the president. He said, "You are too democratic, too democratic." So people just think that somebody is alleged to be corrupt and they have to take the person to prison. No, he did that in his military era. But in democratic area, you have to take the person to court. The judge has to confirm, or the judge has to rule that this person is corrupt. So that is why many people see a slow process in democracy. But this is the beauty of democracy, is to give rights to humans so that people are not just arrested illegally,
right,
or someone is just accused on allegations of corruption. There has to be investigation, and the judge or a court is the one that is going to do it. So the president himself is not the one. Also, I want to say this: President Buhari himself is somebody who is principled. Everybody knows this. But Nigerians, we also have to imbibe that principality in ourselves. Yes, there have been allegations that people around him were corrupt, the so-called cabals. Some of the governors were also corrupt in his time. Some people in the ministry, some ministers were alleged to have embezzled. The style in which President Buhari runs his government is that he gives everybody the free hand. And many of them have come out to say this, including Babatunde Fashola, who was the Minister of Works. He said it. He said that the style of Buhari is that it would give you the free hand to work and do your thing. Even the current Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, who was also a minister in his time, said the same thing. He gives you the free hand to work. And some of them definitely
took advantage
have
of
abused it, while others are making use of it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, that being said, we'll go on a quick break now. And of course, Newsweek continues in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Of course, we are still talking about the late president's demise, and we have quite a number of guests on our lineup today, and everyone is quite particularly very, sorry about the situation. And well, Bernard, quickly, you heard him concerning the anti-corruption, discussion. You did say earlier on that he was not a perfect person, but I really want to understand his anti-corruption campaign. Was it a symbolic? Has it become a symbolic thing about him now, or was it just, was it effective? If you were to break it down from your end,
Mark, that's a very important question.
Yeah.
And whenever I have an opportunity to speak on television, it is also an opportunity for me to leave my thoughts on what we can do to better our nation. Buhari was one man and had a cabinet of over 30 to 40 ministers and had several DGs of parastatal. As a person, he was very frugal. We saw it reflected in his personal life and even in the life of his children.
Body language.
His body language, his demeanor. It was, we were not doubtful that he was what I would describe an incorruptible gentleman. I would be fair to him.
Yeah.
But you see, he's just one man. So we would need to go beyond the one-man syndrome, where one man is powerful enough, or one man is frugal enough, or one man has an anti-corruption mantra. It has to trickle down to you and I, to the DG of parastatals, to the ministers who handle budget. MFLA.
Yes, talking about trickling down, would you say it slowed down because that military aspect of him had to give way for the civilian era, and that's why you felt maybe his impact on anti-corruption wasn't that effective because of the garment he now finally wore later on in his career?
No. If you leave me, my personal opinion would be that possibly his health.
Okay.
You know, Muhammadu Buhari went out of the country time and time again to attend to his health.
Right.
Of course, everyone knows he's a very firm person, and he has control over these processes and systems around him.
Right.
But when he became a democratically elected president, we saw some signs of what people would say weakness. Because we saw an MFLA, you know, going beyond and above, and, you know, Nigerians kept saying your CBN governor is not getting it right, and we saw Mr. President keeping quiet or staying calm about it.
Right.
And it bothered some of us a lot. There's a former minister of power right now that is being prosecuted for stealing over 30 to 40 billion or thereabout. MFLA, of course, has several count charges against him by EFCC and all of that, you know. Yes, so I still say that we should not put the blame on Muhammadu Buhari. He is just one man. The CBN governor, whosoever it is that is appointed CBN governor, has fiscal control and knowledge. And you should not take the opportunity bestowed on you to steal. So I'm just wondering what more Muhammadu Buhari needed to do, you know, except for the fact that he had put himself out there as an incorruptible gentleman, like I have said. And it was important that those who worked with him understood his personality and imbibed his values. Unfortunately, that is not what happened. And I don't think we should put the blame on Muhammadu Buhari.
All right. Ibrahim Garba, quickly now, from your perspective, quickly, did the late president, did he evolve in leadership style, or did he remain the same figure across decades? How would you really affirm that moment if you were to actually speak right now, since you are in that position?
You see, at a certain point or in your life, there's a certain age you reach, Mark. You no longer need material things again. I think Muhammadu Buhari has given us that template that at that age, what you need to do is to give back to society. What happens to corporate social responsibility? But unfortunately, like my other colleagues mentioned, when you assign people to certain roles, you must have had close relationship with them that, look, I cannot be there with you all the time, but again, the institutions of government should hold you accountable for your deeds and your misdeeds. I think it is on that pricing that Buhari, you know, gave people, you know, positions in power to be able to, you know, deliver dividends of democracy. But at a certain point, like former governor of Lagos State, Babangida, Fashola, we know he was given 3 ministries to handle. Why did Buhari do that? Did that? Trust. And at the same time, he earned his respect. This is somebody he knows very, very well. So that is leadership, identifying those who will help you, you know, deliver the dividends of democracy. Because he keeps fighting for the common good. What can I do? What can Buhari do to better the life of the ordinary Nigerians? So the takeaway from this point is that Buhari has done his part, is gone. The legacies still remain. But again, as a country, we should be thinking of what we can do for this country. And this is a clarion call on our leaders to look back to those Buhari years. What did he do that changed their lives? You are assigned role, you have given portfolios to manage. But does that give you the opportunity to loot and become rich overnight? So these are questions we're asking our leaders almost across the nation today. Leadership is not about acquisition of wealth. Leadership is about giving back to the community so that it can be celebrated. Like Buhari, he doesn't need to bribe you to come out for him. Buhari doesn't need to invite you. All you need is an announcement. Mark, I will tell you, sometimes ago in Kano, when he came out for campaigns, it took Buhari almost 6 hours to cover just 2 kilometers of roads from the venue to the stadium. We're talking about organic followership. Why? Because of that trust. So we should earn it, and we should not abuse the process, man.
Thank you very much. Yusuf, very quickly, we're already out of time. Honestly, we're already out of time. In 10 seconds, what's your final take before we finally go tonight? 10.
And this is a big lesson for all of us who are currently living, that life is vanity. Let us do something which they will remember our name for, which is good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. In 10 seconds, can you just quickly wrap up?
Thank you very much, Mark. So, of course, for me, it's a lesson to all of us as Nigerians, especially our leaders. And it is my admonition to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to do better. You know, this reminds us that all of us would give accounts before our Creator someday. And I just want to remind him that all of us will go through this transition.
Thank you.
we should remember him too for knowing what he thinks.
Thank you very much, legal luminary Bernard Duniga, for your time on the show. And of course, Ibrahim Garba, media consultant, thank you for your time as well. And of course, Yusuf Haron, of course, political analyst, always here for us. We appreciate you. Not to worry, it's just a pity we don't have time, but not to worry. You can just tune into TVC Communications, first with breaking news. We believe and we know in the course of the week, there's going to be a whole lot of analysis concerning our late president. Of course, that's our show for today. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our social media platforms at TVC News NG or on our website at tvcnews.tv. I am Marco Tabo. Until next week, goodbye.